It's Courtney and Abe, the day after Valentine's Day, and it's Monday, or the Monday after Valentine's Day, and it's also President's Day. So let's talk about Valentine's Day real quick.
How many days is it?
How many days is it?
Yeah, you said President's Day, Valentine's Day,
the day
and
after.
it's also Monday.
It's the day after Valentine's Day. It's President's Day. You know, we have to acknowledge that. Everybody's like back at work, right? Talking about what did he do for you? What did she get you? Right? Like that's how the story goes the day after Valentine's Day. And I just think it's funny because usually like the typical things like chocolate, roses, jewelry for women, right? Like that shit doesn't even really matter. You know, like it just doesn't. A couple years ago, Kanye, follow me, Kanye got Kim.
He's crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
He's a legend. Kanye got Kim stocks for Valentine's Day. And I don't know if anybody else caught that, but when I saw that, I was like, oh shit. It blew my mind. He bought her stocks in Amazon and Disney. See, it was so legendary to me that it stuck with me all these years.
Disney's probably paid out too, depending on when he bought. Yeah, sure.
This was years ago.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's, you know, that's what you do when you have too much money. And I'm like, no, like that's yeah, for real. And I'm like, that's the kind of mindset that you need to have. Okay. Ditch the chocolates, ditch the jewelry, ditch the sex toys, all of it. And do something.
No, don't ditch him.
Don't ditch him. No, but for real, like do something other than that, right? That invest in something. And like I mean that in a roundabout way, like not necessarily like. So where I'm trying to get at, right, is that for Valentine's Day this year, I was like, I'm going to buy a gift that's investing in my partner. For him. Like, so it's a little bit out of the ordinary. I got you the Daily Stoic, and not only did I get one for you, I got one for me as a way that we could use it to like connect. And I was like, this is a way that I want to show my partner that I need him or I want him to invest in himself. And then I want to invest in myself too. So what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to get on that Kanye mindset.
Yeah, I guess you definitely are. That book, though, that book is dope. It's like, I'm just going to paint a picture of what kind of the book is like. So the whole Daily Stoic thing, it embodies the Stoic mentality, right? Where you kind of need to be detached, or I wouldn't say detached, but think things really logically, less with emotion, and really kind of step outside your ego to approach certain situations in a certain manner, right? It's like the Stoic philosophy. And every day on this book, it's like a fortune cookie, right? Or I look at it like a fortune cookie. It's like a little present. So every day is like marked with a day. And that day you read that certain passage. And then you reflect on it. So how I kind of start my day is I read the passage. It's like a spiritual Bible in a sense.
It is.
It's pretty cool. And it'll give you like a teaching and like a quote, and then they break down the quote. And it's from people that really embody that Stoic philosophy. And then they break it down, and then you think about it. And I kind of start off my day like that so I could think about at least my day at work. It's a part of like my routine. Sit down in my little armchair, drink my coffee, read my Daily Stoic. And then how I approach my day depends on this. I kind of take this into consideration. Almost I try to apply it pretty much like almost like a word of the day, but it's like a mindset of the day, if you will, right? And then at the end, I try to, sometimes I forget. Lately, I've been forgetting. I try to read it again right? And then I come home on the car ride, or because we carpool together right now. I ask you, I'm like, what did you think about your Daily Stoic? And it's super interesting to me that you totally pull different things out of the Daily Stoic. Like you have your own things how you interpret it, right? And I'm like, man, that's totally different from how I took it, and then how you're taking it and how you applied it. So super dope book. Is I guess a part of my Valentine's Day gift, right? But it was awesome.
I think it's funny too that you read it again at the end of the day. You just
Because I forget.
I do too, but I started to incorporate it in my afternoon routine, that I read it again to refresh my memory. So I just thought it was funny that we both do the same thing without realizing it.
And it's great because you kind of invest. You're investing in each other, right? Because it's kind of what you want to do, and you want to create that. I guess that generational wealth doesn't necessarily have to be financial, right? It could be something that you pass on to your kids, right? An ideology, a mindset that'll better prepare them for the world.
Very true. I'm not going to lie. A couple years ago, I had a coworker who told me, oh, I got this calendar. I mean, this is me being like upfront, honest. She was like, I got this calendar and it's like for affirmations. And she was like, it tells me a positive thing. And I may have cracked a mean joke like, oh, okay, that's real cool. And now
you're that lady.
Yeah, now I'm that lady. I'm like, oh, like, and you know what? You go through a series of situations, right, that probably don't pan out to be the best, that get you to that point where you're like, for some of us, where you're like, oh, you know what? They were on to something. So going back to the Daily Stoic, though, now I realized how important it is to have a daily routine, to just kind of balance yourself and like stay in a good mindset. And it's only been like a couple weeks, but I feel like I've really learned a lot in everything I've been reading. So I really like it. I encourage our listeners to pick up the book, tag us in it if you read it, because we're trying to start a book club, just saying. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad I stumbled upon that ideology. I didn't stumble upon it. Somebody in my work center was talking about like the Stoic philosophy and how he embodies it, and it's a part of these like kind of, it's in that special forces type community. I think Jocko talks about it. He's like a special forces guy, kind of like David Goggins along the same line, and they talk about the almost like a Stoic mentality, like be grateful in the situation and have gratitude, and then don't let that situation, if it is bad emotionally, right, don't let it give it a lot of thought or a lot of power over you, right? Really harness or really like try to control that situation or control your emotions. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think about, I'm like, is that kind of suppressing your emotions? Is it not? I know I've talked to you about it, and I'm like, that's kind of how I live my life. And I remember you were like, that's not good. You're really suppressing a lot of emotions. And I'm like, maybe, but I wouldn't call it suppressing. It's like you identify that they're there, or that emotion is there, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna press on. But I'm barely dabbling into that whole Stoic philosophy. I'm gonna try to read more into it and apply it to my life and see what works. So
for me, I think it's creating an easy balance, because I think it's been very interesting for me to be in the like motherhood chapter, and like, you have to embrace that your body, you give up a piece of your body, and then you're trying to stabilize your hormones to go back to normal. And so, your emotions on any given day, you could go from 1 minute to like crying to just laughing. Did I say that right? Yeah. So you're like, what the hell's going on? So for me, I really, there's been a lot of times where I feel like my emotions are very much out of my control, and it makes me kind of nervous sometimes. But for me, like trying to get back to normal and like ground myself, like I said, it's only been a couple weeks where I'm like, damn, some of these things I'm reading, I'm like, yeah. And you just said that thing about Jocko, right?
Yeah.
And it made me think about Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk. His book is a lot about that too. So that's kind of interesting that you just said that, because his book's a lot about like when you're a monk. And I guess maybe that's the whole point of being a monk, is that you're very stoic. Like you don't show too much high or too much low, which is what you say about being stoic.
And it's not that you don't feel those emotions. It's just you really try to, I guess, live in that. Yeah. Well, not showing is just not showing. I think is like something that comes from it, like facially or bodily, body expressions or something like that. But you feel the emotion, but it's you try to balance it, I guess.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Sorry, not by not show, but like a mind, body, soul. Like you're in control, And
Right.
he speaks a lot about that in Think Like a Monk. So I just put those two and two together. That was interesting. But what I'm really curious about is, are we Dogecoin millionaires yet?
In 10 years, no,
Womp womp.
or maybe never. No, the whole Dogecoin thing is it's funny to me. It's like a novelty. I think I'm privileged enough to be able to invest in Dogecoin and not really give it a lot of thought. Like it's kind of like it's a fun thing. I'm a part of like a couple forums among like my other stock trading forums, and they talk about, what's your number? What's your magic numbers for you to become a Dogecoin millionaire? And some people's it's like $5 or $25 or $15. I almost look at it like a lottery ticket, but a long-term lottery ticket. And they're like, oh, what's your price point? And then that price point, if it hits that certain price point, you become a millionaire. I think ours is like $15, which is a ways away, because if it's at like 0.6 cents, I mean, you're there. But people really try to discredit it.
Okay. I do think so. I think there's a lot of skeptics out there, right? Like people just don't. I think the people that are skeptical are the people that don't really understand. Am I wrong? Am I right? Because I know I'm an amateur. I'm like in the beginning stages with my knowledge of investing in the stock market.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess. I mean, you've grown a lot.
Yeah, but do you think that I'm wrong or that I'm right when I say that people that are skeptical about it right now, like they just don't have a full knowledge of investing?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a deep question. No, yes and no. I think logically thinking about it, right? When you look at that whole currency, like it started as kind of like a huge joke, right? It was almost because everybody had a cryptocurrency at that time when everything was popping off with the whole Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency thing. And, there's like Litecoin and this coin and that coin and Ape coin and Courtney coin. And like everybody had a coin, right? That you could essentially just make. So this guy started like this dog coin as like a meme.
Oh, it's dog. It's not Dodge.
Yeah, it has a Shiba Inu or something like that on like a meme. It's a meme. It's like that little dog that they're always like referencing.
Okay.
You're probably not part of the whole meme thing. It's all right. I forgive you. We'll talk about that later. But it was supposed to be like a farce, right? Like something funny, right? But it's gained a lot of popularity and a lot of traction, right? Given this day and age, everything's kind of like a huge joke and everything goes viral, right? So that's how it kind of started off. Fast forward, it's gone from like I think under a cent, less than a cent, to now it's at 6 cents, which is a huge. It's like point 0.0000000, 1, and now it's like 0.06. So that's a huge jump for the people that actually did invest in it and just like did it as like a novelty. Like they're in it. But people kind of said the same thing about Bitcoin, right? People were like, yeah, it's never going to gain any traction. It's going to be hard to roll out. And even now, like you're seeing like a big battle between a lot of like the fiat currency people that support, currency as we know it today, right? Like dollars, yens, euros, stuff like that. And they're pretty much saying this will never integrate into society. It's like impossible. And then you have people like Elon Musk that are kind of paving the way, investing $1.5 billion of their own money, right, of their company's money into a cryptocurrency, and then trying to get it rolled over so they can, it could be a part of our economy. You could pay with, you could pay more mainstream things with this certain coin. So if you're skeptical, yeah, I'm sure probably Dogecoin is definitely the one to be skeptical about, just because it was made as a joke, but it's actually gained. If you're trying to trade, it's gained a lot of value, right? Just like Bitcoin, it kind of really exploded overnight. And, I think it's cool. I think it's funny. Like I said, it's my 10-year lottery ticket. If that ends up being the accepted cryptocurrency of the world, like I would think that would be hilarious. And I almost think it's like no different than Donald Trump becoming president, but I'll leave the political talk out of it.
Ooh, can you talk about investing in the stock market? Because I would say that when it comes to us and the way that we are engaged in our finances, that I am not as savvy as you are. And so I always look to you to explain and, translate into layman's terms, as I will put. Right. Because you were talking about the forum, and I'm like, well, why do you go on forums?
Forums? That's just kind of what I do. Like whenever I get into like a hobby or something that I really, really invest a lot of time in, I want to build a community, right? I want like-minded people to be a part of my growing experience. I want to pull from like a bunch of different mentors. Fortunately, right, we live in a day and age where you can go online and find them, right? And I'll be like, hey, I'm thinking about this, or as I start growing in that hobby or in that skill that I'm trying to perfect, there's other people that are kind of coaching me along the way, and they have their trials and tribulations of what they've done. So that's why I use forums. But what do you want to know about the stock market?
I just want to know, so if like I'm 18, brand new to the Air Force, we'll say, or just, in the big world itself, right? And you're like off and you're on your own. How and when do you start? Because I often think...
you start now.
You start now?
You start now, yeah, I think. And we live in a day and age where it's so easy to invest in anything, in Forex, right? In the stocks, and, open up a portfolio. Like people are really, lately have been bashing Robinhood because of, what they've done with GameStop and stuff like that. But they've really normalized or commercialized having a portfolio or trading stocks or having different investment vehicles. They almost paved the way for a lot of larger brokerage firms to adopt that model to kind of cater towards the average Joe. It's like the hedge funds, right? And then you have your regular investors, and I almost look at it as like in dodgeball, it's like average Joes versus like, what's the big gym, like Planet Fitness. I don't know, I forget, but it's along those lines.
So if I was trying to, I'm just curious if I'm starting out. So you mentioned Robinhood, and why do you favor Robinhood over?
I don't. So like I have a bunch of different platforms, right? Like different structure for different folks. Like I have Robinhood because it's super easy and super user friendly, right? Like I probably shouldn't be saying this, but if I'm trying to execute a trade on the way home or something like that really quick, I'll probably use Robinhood. Or if I actually have my desktop open, right, I'm gonna use like TD Ameritrade and like Thinkorswim, like different platforms have more tools, more charting tools where I could sit down at my computer and kind of get into all the technicals of like the stock market. But for people that have just a baseline understanding knowledge, I would say, yeah, Robinhood is good, even though that they have this whole turmoil with the whole GameStop thing and they stop investors from investing.
So
it's easy. It literally says buy and sell on it. Like it's super easy.
I'm not even going to crack a joke, but it is pretty simple, because when I started like kind of getting my hands wet with trading and stuff and like trying to figure it out, I was like, this is so much less intimidating than the way it's always played out to be. Like I always saw it as something very intimidating to do.
Yeah, they kind of Hollywood paints a picture of like a very, what you see on the movies. Like you're like, buy, sell. And this guy like yelling out a phone and like slamming it down and like waving his hand and like putting two fingers up and it's like buy two, sell the beans, buy the wheat. There's just like stuff like that, and it's just like, it's in reality, right? The stock market or how we know it today is not like that, right? Most trades are kind of executed from home, from people's desktop, right? Like if you're, it's now over the phone, right? Like that's like a new thing. But did you ever envision yourself investing in the stock market?
I always felt like it was something I was going to work up to, and then I never worked up to it until you and I got together, because life happens. And I always tell you, like, I come from like the way that I was raised in.
How was that?
I would say that I was, we were raised to be penny pinchers. Or that's the mentality that I picked up. Because when I say like the way that I was raised, I always like to put that disclaimer out there that, I lived a very colorful life. Like I had a lot of influences, or, like when I was being brought up, like my stories just don't resort back to my mom and my dad. Like it comes from a plethora of people. And I just saw a lot of things growing up, and it really just made me be a penny pincher and save. Like I believed in having a savings. And then when I got older and I joined the Air Force, I was like, oh, okay, like there's other ways to invest. But for me at that time, being young, I was really nervous to invest in the stock market. And I really didn't know a lot about it. And, like, that work-life balance, right? Where you're trying to like figure it all out in the big world. And I probably didn't take enough time to like be serious enough and sit down and crack open a book or get on YouTube like I should have. But who is when they're 20? Please tell me, And I wasn't born into a family. I always tell you like where I'm from, like I grew up with a lot of kids who had generational wealth. They were born into...
So like trust fund babies?
Trust fund babies, they lived off of bonds or however it works, like trust fund babies. And my family, like we just didn't have that, we weren't trading in the stock market. You know what I was told? My grandpa just always told me, save your money, take care of your money, take care of your money, take care of your money. He always had like these 3 famous rules, and it was take care of your money. And then how did you do that? You just save, just throw it in a savings, throw it in a savings. And then, over time, we would have these conversations about trying to invest and what I should invest in, but we only knew so much. And so maybe it wasn't a lot, but when I was 18 and I was on my own, like it was enough for me to kind of spin my wheels and try to figure out, okay, how can I be successful? I saw a plethora of ways to not be financially successful, and now I know what not to do, but now I need to figure out at 18, what do I do to be financially successful?
Yeah. So your grandfather, right? He was like a boomer, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that like tied into like his mentality of like saving, because they came from a generation where they're coming out of the Great Depression, right? So I'm guessing he instilled a lot of those traits that he learned right onto you. What was your first thing that you ever invested in?
My first thing I ever invested in?
Or your investment vehicle, right? And I say vehicles, right? Because there's a lot of things that will move your money into the direction that you want it. But
my first thing that I really took the time to invest in, I would say, was my car. Do
you feel that was an investment or just like a smart financial decision?
At the time, if you would have asked me back then, what my thought process was, I had a 5-year plan. I was like, this is where I'm at. I didn't understand how to work through the stock market. And I guess most people are get rich quick, or I don't trust the stock market. I could lose it all tomorrow. And what if an emergency happens? So I just always kept thinking okay, well, if I put my money in something like a CD or a savings bond, this is a good small start. I was always told start small and build. And so I always had this fear of jumping into a financial investment that I had no control of, or I didn't know how to navigate, and then just losing everything.
Like a financial obligation with your car?
No, I wouldn't really say I was in a financial obligation with my car.
Oh, okay. But what did you, did you have a savings? Did you do CDs? What did you do?
I had a savings, and anytime I had any extra money, I just would use it to pay off my car. My first big paycheck, when I came back from my deployment, I was like, I'm going to throw all of this on my car because I have X amount of payments. And my investment at that time was my car. I had an apartment, and I was like, I'm going to invest in my car because, this is small-minded mentality, but which probably, I don't even know that it even exists anymore. But I was just told from my family, they're like, you invest in your car, you always have something as collateral. You don't have collateral for a house because you can't afford a house. But if you just pay off your car, you have that as collateral. So comes, a bad rainy day, you could just take it to the bank and take out a loan on your car. And maybe that wasn't the smartest thing to do.
It's a horrible thing to do.
But it's that was as good as it got, okay?
Yeah, and not everybody, I guess, has, your parents can only take you so far, right? A lot of it you have to do your own, right? And a lot of it you have to create your own financial intelligence. The whole car situation, if you, cars are a horrible investment because there's no return on your investment, if that makes sense. The minute you purchase a car and you drive it off the lot, it's devalued 20%, and it just keeps devaluing every time, and you keep driving it around, so you keep decreases in value. So yes, it is collateral, right, to use in an emergency if you ever needed to, if you never sell the car or something like that. But as far as you growing your money, it's a horrible investment vehicle to invest in a vehicle, if that makes sense. But when I was young, I had that same mentality. Well, I never really thought of it that in depth. Not until I really, really started, you join the Air Force and you're exposed to a lot of, or the military, or, you step outside your circle, right? And you meet people and you start getting exposed to different individuals that have like a better financial literacy than what your parents could provide or what your friends can provide. And you're like, man, where I feel like I've been living in the dark all these years, you know? That was me when 18, leaving the military or leaving home, right? Joining the military. That was me. And, I was in that same mindset where my parents were always like, save all your money, don't do anything risky with it. And I feel like that's like the most counterproductive ideology that you can instill in your kids to have them increase their wealth or grow their wealth from a young age.
So would you say that where did your knowledge start? Like where in life did you pick up on what you know today?
All right, so man, it's kind of like I would say I made the best of out of a bad situation. I wouldn't say bad, right? But my mom, right, she would, we're immigrants in this country, right? So my mom's a housekeeper at the time. She's housekeeping for all these reputable people in our town that live in country clubs and stuff like that. And, she would bring me along, right? So I literally would, she'd be cleaning the house and I would be sitting there on the couch, right? And, you start to develop relationships with these people as far as like they see this working mom and her 6-year-old son come to the house, they kind of want to know more about you, right? So, I would always talk with these people, right? And obviously these people are kind of like the people that you're like, these people are like trust fund babies or, just really established people, right? One of them was he was like a cancer doctor for like all of California or Northern California. He was like deemed as one of like the best, right? And which they actually have like a crazy interesting story. But I would sit on the couch and obviously you try to respect these people's house, you're just fortunate enough to be brought along, right? So I'm sitting on the couch, right? And they always had this like business news going on, business news about the stock, right? CNN, NBC, all that stuff, Jim Cramer. And I would legitimately just sit and watch it because I thought it was pretty interesting, right? I would always see the stuff like on Hollywood about the stock market and it's like fast paced. And I would sit and watch like Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer's like a stock market personality, right? Like he's very animated, a lot of sounds, a lot of colors. So as a 6-year-old kid, I'm watching it. I'm like, "Ooh, this is exciting. This is fun," right? And I would sit and be like, okay, just the verbiage and like the stocks that are traded, and you start watching the news, you start to get it, kind of be a part of the lingo and like the culture, right? Fast forward, you're like, I'm taking economics class, it's piquing my interest to invest, and you start paper trading, right? Like a fake trading, like you pick certain stocks, and you kind of, it's like a simulation. And then right, fast forward into today, right, or as I'm joining the military, I had like an older ranking person in my organization was like, "Hey, are you investing in your TSP?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And he's like, "You're fucking up. If you invest in this plan with this amount of percentage out of your paycheck every year in 20 years, right, you can have like close to $1 million, right?" And I was like, "Wow, like how do I do that? Teach me." And he started teaching me all the ins and outs of what he knew, which looking back on it was like very basic knowledge, but I'm sure it took him a long time to amass that knowledge, right? And for those of you who don't know, TSP is like a government 401k for military and government people. Usually they match you contributions, and then they have different plans that you could pick from, like a government plan, stocks, and then that they want you to stay in that, obviously, because it's part of the government. So they just automatically put you in there. So if you don't go in and change it yourself, and change it to like an international fund or like a large company type plan, like that's a part of the stock market, you're never going to see like a huge return on your initial investment that you put in. But anyway, it's like he started teaching me that, and then after that, I started kind of doing my own research, right? Because I'm very passionate about everything that I do, and I was like, man, if this is the baseline knowledge, like how can I become pro? How can I get there and become an actual trader, an actual investor like Jim Cramer, right? And I'm like pulling from my childhood, and I'm like, I know this, I've been here. How can I actually do this and, find knowledge for this? Fortunately enough, right, there's enough. We got the internet. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. And that's how you are where you are today, because you continue to invest in perfecting your skill, right?
It's a craft, yeah.
I just think it's interesting because I a lot of people, they don't think to invest in their knowledge of being financially savvy. They're like, And so it's always interesting to me to know the who, what, when, where, why, how, and to know that that's your story behind who you are today. Because I know that like everybody at work is like, oh, like go to Abe, because you know so much, and I even go to you, So I always am curious, like, how did it start? Like, where did this even begin? Because like I said, like I went to school with a lot of people that they're just born into that lifestyle.
But in that sense, also like they have a better understanding, or they have more of a financial literacy because they're exposed from such a young age. Like they're born into it, right? And they know that saving your money, right, throwing in a savings account is like the worst thing that you could do. I wouldn't say the worst thing, right? It barely beats inflation. But as far as growing your money, like it's just going to stay stagnant. And what a lot of people don't know is the banks, in turn, whatever you put in your savings, they take it and invest it themselves in the stock market or in different things, or give loans out to people, and they have that money, your money, work for them. So why not have your own money work for you? It's kind of, yeah, boom. Yeah, and it's for us.
I like it. Okay, so tell us, how do you strategize? How do you do it once you're in there? Once you download the app and you got your dollars, your pennies, whatever, how do you navigate once you're in there? Like, what do you do?
It's a lot. So, right, people always say invest in things that you love or things that you use every day, right? I would say almost the opposite of that. I would say that's horrible, right? Like, yeah, look around, right? But just because you like Yeti water bottles or flasks, right, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a company that's like thriving and profiting compared to other things you can put your money in. So I look at it from that aspect first. So I do look at things that I use, right? Like Apple, Amazon, obviously those are companies that are, great return of investment, right? A little bit more expensive, but I try to look at companies that are in a 5-year, I almost look at it long term, right? In a 5-year plan, like where are they going? What new products are they going to develop? What are they going to grow? How are they going to grow, right? How does their quarterly earnings look like? And then a lot of times you don't just want to shoot the trigger, right, on a stock market or on a company, right, that's in the stock market. You want to track it. You want to prey on it, right? You want to watch it for a month or two to understand the trends. Like, oh, okay, like today it could be at $10, tomorrow it could be at $5, right? or at this point of the month or the year, it's at this price point. So it's smarter for me to buy this company, right? Because it'll be at a low point. I look at things like that. And then I would say lastly, you really want to understand your personality, and you really want it to align with your goals, right? Your goal of what you're looking for financially, right? If your idea of going into the stock market is like to get rich quick, right? You don't care how that happens, and you don't care about losing any money, then I would say, yeah, hit those penny stocks, hit those the pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that. Very risky companies, right? You might lose all your money. You might hit it big and get rich quick, right? But a lot of people aren't prepared to do that, especially when you're a new investor, right? I think they say 90% of people lose 100% of their money within the first 90 days. So,
and why is that?
Just because people really, really just go into things blindly. Like, this is your money. You can't really go into certain things blindly. And I think a lot of people go with the notion of getting rich quick, right? This shit takes time. Perfecting a craft, growing something, growing anything, it takes time. So I always say, yeah, align your personality, align your goals, like make obtainable goals. If you're going in with that notion to get rich quick, understand that it's a huge possibility that you're going to lose a lot of your money. And then if your plan is to just grow your capital from a long-term standpoint, like invest money that you can afford to lose, right? Or you can afford not to have. I wouldn't say lose, but just to have tied up in the stock market.
But when you lose it, explain that. Because how do you lose it if you just don't pull out?
Exactly. So you don't, and you hit it right on the head. So you don't lose money until you actually cash out on that investment. So if you're down money, it's almost like never panic sell, right? Especially like during coronavirus, right? I remember I was kind of got you into stock market at that time, and it was almost like worst time to get into the stock market or to show a new investor how things go, because things went the complete opposite of what they were supposed to do, right? Stock market pretty much crashed, right? And I remember you looking at me and you were like, why is this happening? Like, how did we lose, 10K in 2 days? And I was like, well, shit happens. Like, it's like
shit and bricks.
Yeah, I was like, don't worry. It's going to come back. It's just going to take some time, right? If we pull out now, we're screwed. But if we let it grow and climb back, it will. And sure enough, it did, right? Just because it's almost like I feel like you have to put faith in the stock market. I look at historically, looking at the stock market, right? When the stock market crashed, like that was horrible, right? Like that went on for like a couple more years, or we saw the ramifications of that for years to come. But that, like what happened, I was like, that's small, that's not that bad. We'll get it back in a year or two. Like, that's no big deal.
I just think that that time, my head, I just, I got ahead of myself and I was like, are we looking at the apocalypse right now? Like, why is it crashing so bad? Is this it? Like, is this it for us? I felt like it was doomsday, because it just, it felt like everything got way out of control. And so I was just hella nervous.
Yeah, I looked over and I was like, it's okay. And of course, right? Like we had like a V-shaped recovery, even though everybody was like, this is not going to be a V-shaped recovery. And even I was skeptical. I was like, it's going to pan out. And even then, it might still go back down, right? The market doesn't necessarily reflect our economy currently right now.
Yes, and that's something big I hear. Explain that.
So you have all these people out of work, right? Like our economy is not necessarily healthy. Like businesses are closed down, people are out of work, right? There's less money flowing in and out of certain corporations, certain companies, things of that nature. So we had a lot of stimulus. We had a stimulus like in our stock market, right? Like they're pretty much injecting money into the stock market so that way it would stabilize. And they did all these preventative measures, right? Like Fed, adjusting interest rates and things of that nature. But it doesn't reflect. But I'm gonna make this money. I'm gonna take advantage of this situation as long as I can, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so you told us how you strategize. What are can you touch more on what are some of a few first timer mistakes other than panic selling?
Like I said, like you really have to look at your personality, right? Like if you want to be a risky investor and you're not a risky person, obviously those two things don't align. And regardless of what you try to do, right, your plan going in, you're going to overthink it, right? And emotionally kind of do the wrong thing, right? You're going to get anxious, you're going to sell, right? In a bad situation. And they're going to be out of a lot of money. Or a lot of people, they're like, hey, I need this fast, right? I want long-term growth, and I want slow growth and easy, slow and steady wins the race type mentality. But they're like, I like being engaged in this game of the stock market, right? I like watching the charts. I like watching the graphs, right? I like technical analysis and, certain price points and things of that nature. And then I'm like, maybe in investing, right? Long-term investing isn't for you. Maybe you're more of a trader. Like you like to trade certain stocks for different stocks at different price points and only hold them for like a day and then secure that profit and then reinvest that again. If that's you, right? You have to identify that in yourself, but you can't be lying to yourself and be like, I'm a risky person, right? Scared money don't make money. And then in the end, you're like, holy shit, I'm scared. I don't want to make money. I'm gonna pull this out, like I'm a cover, I'm a take a hit. I'm a cash out while I'm down before, it gets even more hectic and pull out. So that's what I usually see. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, you can't do that, And then obviously people go in with the mindset like once they panic, right? Scared money don't make money. So like you can't. People invest their rent money or money that they actually need day to day to live, and then they're like, "Dang, I'm down on this money. I need to pull this out." And
do they really though?
I know a couple people that they're like here's the thing, like people, I follow this Dogcoin forum. One, don't invest, just disclaimer, don't invest your life savings into Dogcoin, all right? Because you planned out that if it hits $1, you bought, $20,000 shares of Dogcoin, you're going to become a millionaire. That's the wrong thing to do, right?
Also, go on.
And you're pretty much, you're not diversifying, right? So you have to pick multiple companies, multiple that are in like different areas of business, right? Solar energy, renewable resources, oil, commerce, right? Like, clothing brands, tech brands, pharmaceuticals, things of that nature, right? You want to like hit every area of business.
Why? Why is it important to diversify your portfolio?
Because at certain times of the year, right, certain businesses are going to be up and some are going to be down, right? And you almost want to create almost an average in your portfolio. Like big thing right now, right? Like pipeline, they shut it down, things of that nature. Like I'm sure there's ramifications. I'm not a big oil person, right? I don't actually invest in a lot of oil myself because that's like I feel like that's like a whole specialized thing, right? But you'll see the ramifications of that, right, throughout different companies, right? And then a lot of it is, some of it is speculative. Help me out.
Speculative,
yes.
Gotcha.
So, when people see that, right, they start to panic and then they start to sell. They're like, hey, pipeline goes down. This means, things are changing for our company. Biden just came out and he's all green, renewable resources, right? Oil's going down, things of that nature. So that's why you want to do that, right? If oil's down, maybe solar energy's up, If, Apple is releasing something in November, maybe the rest of the year it's going to be at a lower price point than it is, and then it'll explode around November or something like that. Or just different companies, right? And different companies release different quarterly earnings, right? And if they hit that benchmark of what their estimated, quarterly earnings value is going to be, maybe that's positive, maybe that's negative, but it's smart to stage those out so you don't feel the full effect of that.
So is that another tip that you're just dropping, that you need to be following the companies that you're investing in? You need to be following their quarterly earnings?
Yes. Some people will say no, right? Like they're like, that's not a clear indication of how the company's doing, blah, 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 right? But yeah, I think that helps out. You definitely need to be following the news. You definitely want to be looking at everything. You want to be invested into your company, not only financially, but like mentally, right? You want to give it a space on your day to day, right? When you're checking that Instagram story and you're like, obviously ours, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
When you're checking that Instagram story, you're like, man, take 10 seconds and check on the news for your stock and be like, oh, okay, this is happening in my stock that I invested X amount of money in. A lot of people they're like, I want to throw my money in it, forget about it, and walk away from it. Like, you could do that with some companies, but not every company. And especially if you're trying to take advantage of different price points within the market.
Yeah, that was my first initial thought was I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to be involved every day. And you're like, Court.
But you do have to have
that's not how this works.
Yeah. Monthly at least, Like, I think healthy, like a monthly, really like deep dive into your stocks and look at where they're at and look at where you want to move some money around and pull some money out and buy other things in different areas of business. So
other than Instagram and turning on CNN, what are other ways that you can get the quarterly earnings? Get that information?
Dude, it's so easy. Like,
tell me.
So a lot of stocks, if you just check their, like, I'm gonna use Robinhood because most people have Robinhood, right?
App?
And it's literally on the app, and it has a little graph, and then it'll tell you, and then you could look it up too, like Google. Google's a powerful thing, right? You just literally go on there, and it's like, when is quarter four quarterly earnings come out for this certain company, and it'll tell you on that day, and then legitimately the day before, hours before, you'll see a huge movement of either investors coming in, like during that week or even that day, and you'll see a huge movement of people either kind of making almost bets, like speculative bets of like how they think the company's going to do or what they think the company performed at. And there's a lot of people that like swoop in and try to cash out on that movement, right? So
interesting.
Yeah.
What are other ways that you can just grow your knowledge? Because I feel like the common person is just going to be extremely intimidated.
Yeah, first of all, YouTube, right? YouTube's a powerful thing. There's a bunch of people out there that literally, and I've I've used YouTube, right, to educate you, because they almost make it in a very they put it, people that have it out there, they put it in a very elementary way, as far as like, this is a stock, this is, at this is what you do, this is what a stock is, this is how a stock moves, and you you laugh, but like, people need, obviously, right? You're not gonna be a mathematician without learning addition. So you have to start somewhere, and you really have to put your ego aside and be like, I'm dumb as hell, but I'm gonna get smart, and I'm gonna do it through these YouTube videos. So YouTube, if you're like a visual person, if you're just like a factual person that just, read some friggin' books,
What books have you read?
The Intelligent Investor. I read half of it. And if anybody,
who's it by?
I don't know. It's pretty much, it is Warren Buffett's mentor.
Ooh,
the guy that taught Warren Buffett, right? And the guy that taught him was like this other guy, right? That was like big into finances. So people kind of reference that book as the Bible. And, but it's stupid dry, and it's like thick. It's a thick boy, it is a read. So I read half of it, and I was like, you know what? This has a lot of like, me. Like, I just want the knowledge now. And
like Cliff Notes.
move on. Yeah, I don't need to hear, your life story about like this certain situation. I'm not attacking you.
Because I'm like, that's so me. Like, I want to know everything.
So I read that. That was good. But honestly, and a lot of like Jim Cramer books, a lot of quick reads, right? And, a lot of like The Dummy's Guide to Investing or something like that.
Okay, so those really are good.
I think any Dummy's Guide is like baseline good, right?
I've never picked up one of those books.
It's good. Yeah, that's good. Obviously, like it's a good starting point. But one of the things that I think, which was introduced to me until I honestly had already amassed a bigger financial intelligence, right, of different things and different things that I could do. And obviously, when I say intelligence, like I feel like compared to the actual knowledge is out there, I feel like I'm at like a reading at a 6th grade level, because there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of specialties, and there's a lot of things that you could do, like stocks or trading or Forex, even. And I'm not.
Tell us about Forex. Don't crack the jokes.
It's not a pyramid scheme. No. There's a lot of people out on the internet that use it as a pyramid scheme, just like they do stocks, right? They're like, I'm gonna sell you my signals and be like me, live this lavish lifestyle. It's almost like
what? Did they really?
Yeah, it's almost like the I wish you were here. I think you were telling me about that.
Yeah,
right?
I was telling you about that.
You wish you were here type thing, or like.
If you're involved in a pyramid scheme, I'm gonna crack a joke about it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so you have a lot of people like, hey, follow my guide. I'll show you how to invest Forex or this or that. Or trade Forex. I wouldn't say invest because you don't really invest in currencies. But yeah, if you know how to do it, it works, right? Majority of people don't. That's like a super big specialty.
But how easy is it to get into Forex trading compared to being in the stock or investing in the stock market and trading?
Same. Yeah, it's literally the same.
It's the same thing?
You could literally pick up like a Forex demo and like FX Trade, which is like a platform that people use to trade, and like add your bank account, even use your credit card and start swiping away and start buying different start moving some pips, which is like
what's a pip?
It's like it's almost like the value that they put in between two different currencies.
Okay.
Like a dollar and a yen or something like that. So there has to be like some sort of quantitative, translation in between the two.
Do you know anybody currently?
I know people I actually had a good friend. he was really big into Forex, and he made money on it. However, I hate hitting on Forex because there's a lot of phonies out there, and I don't like to get wrapped up in that world, and it's almost really off-put. I don't like to even mention Forex because I feel like every day I receive some sort of, because I'm algorithm Instagram, right? I receive some guy trying to sell me his signals and his plan and his whole pyramid Forex scheme thing, like send me money or this or that and I'll show you how to trade. I'm like, nah, all right, you got to get it for yourself. But a powerful tool, honestly, if you are trying to do that, or any stock market, and you're just trying to understand knowledge, right? Don't go out and buy, Timothy Sykes, which is he's like a investor, mainly trades penny stocks and stuff like that.
Okay.
Don't go out and buy his signals for in his newsletter. I mean, you can first get the knowledge, right? Get the knowledge. Investopedia.com. That place is powerful. They even have courses like you pay, and for military and vets and government workers, and I think even people in college, it's like 50% off, and they'll show you how to invest and trade.
Really? How long? Is that a week course or
it's like at your own pace?
Oh,
it's
okay.
At your own pace, right? Like there's things that you read, there's little exercises, and it starts off with that very baseline knowledge.
Like for a kindergartner,
I would say financial literacy of a kindergartner. Yes,
okay.
Courtney.
that's where we're starting.
Hey, but if that's where you're going to start, like that's where you're starting. I mean, the time is now. I meet a lot of people that are well into their 30s, 40s, and they're like, holy shit, I haven't even thought about retirement. I haven't even started investing into a 401k or any, plan, my company's plan. Like I totally blew it off. I was spending that money on, I felt like I couldn't afford to spend this money, or my partner didn't want me to put this money aside to invest.
Because I think a lot of people get intimidated, and they're like when you and I started having the conversations, I was like, look, I'm glad that's been working for you, but I am not here to throw everything in the stock market. And it really freaked me out, but it really took time for me to stop, listen, evolve and grow. And then you have to be patient. Like you said, it's not a get rich quick scheme.
Patience. Yeah. You got to embody that older Warren Buffett mentality. And I say older Warren Buffett because he was honestly, he got really lucky. He invested into, companies that really, really skyrocketed and grew in that time. So, and he would even tell you, invest in companies that are doing well, and then take that earnings and, put it into something a little bit more safe, that's how you want to treat your investments, honestly. But
very true.
It really, back to what you were saying, it really, if you're in a relationship, right, or if you're married, it really requires your partner to be on board 100% or have trust in you, financially, to make the right decisions or to be on board.
You do. You need to. That's something I feel like I didn't hear enough of because of my upbringing. I'm from North Texas, so I grew up with that upbringing that when it comes to finances, that's what your husband does. And for me, that never aligned right with me to solely put all of that responsibility onto whoever my future or husband is. And so I always took it upon myself to try to learn, but I wouldn't say that, I started at a much lower point than you did. I didn't start at the same level as you. So my knowledge of finances is different than yours. And I never really even touched on the stock market, ever educating myself prior to us, really just being together. I was going to try to cover it up, and then I was like, no, I can't. It just never really got to that point. And when you say that, it's so true that who you are with and who you have in your social circle, like your values have to align. Like it's mandatory, because if they don't align with each other, like you're just going to get each other off course as to what you're striving for in life. And you're not going to meet your goals. Like, because I know first and foremost from my experiences in life, when I have not been around people that are aligned with my financial goals, and they're not trying to go where I was going when I was younger, they knocked me off my course, which is why I am sitting here having this conversation with you, because I was very much so influenced and knocked off my course.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easily to be like, yo, or at least where we were at, it's like you're living in Jersey, you go to New York, you're like, let's rack up a $300 bar tab in New York, like, let's do it up. And, at the time you're young and you have like this money, right? This money that you didn't have before, like at 18, 19 years old, and you're completely financially independent, and you're just like blowing it, or you're just or you're with a partner, right, that doesn't share the same values, right, and really, really derails you. So, while you're over here trying to even save, right, and I say save because I know that we were kind of bashing money on saving and not investing, but even when you're trying to save and that person is like putting you in financial debt, or really, really frivolously spending. And, I like nice shit, I spend my money on a lot of dumb shit, like as far as Amazon and stuff like that. But it's a balance, right?
Very much so.
And, I've been in that place where, I'm trying to save and, I'm trying to invest, and you're with somebody that doesn't have those same values. So
it's dangerous. It's one of those things that, I'm like, I would say to people who are not married and who are very young, and even if you're just single, like that's one of those things that you just can't fuck with. Like that shit has to be on point. Like you guys got to be on that same page, because you really,
or have a balance,
right? And you really are who you surround yourself with. Like I know, like I always felt like I had a lot of experiences when I was younger that really adultified me. So by the time I joined the military, I was like, oh, I know how to get through life, okay. Like every other 18-year-old. But I just always felt like that rule didn't apply to me. Like I was like, I have my goal in sight. And I know that the people I'm surrounded with right now, like they don't have the same goals, but I'm not going to let them deter me. But then slowly but surely, that's what happens. So it's dangerous. Like you got to be aligned.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of guys, right? And a lot of them are married, and a lot of them, it's tough. Like they're in a situation where they're like, hey, I'm in this mindset where I want to invest. What do I do? Where do I put my money? And I'm like, do this, and this, or, I'm looking at these stocks or this because of this. And I'll break it down to them, right? Like light one, what is it? A candle lights another candle, something like that, right? So I'm like, it costs me nothing to help you out, right? Like, why not? Let's all win. Let's all eat. And a lot of times the response that I always get, I would say like 50% of the time, like, oh, I got to run by that. I got to run that by my partner, right? And that's completely like acceptable, right? Like you don't ever want to make huge financial decisions with consulting your partner, right? Or your family. But then a lot of the times, like the follow-up will be like, oh no, it's my partner doesn't want me to invest that money because she would rather spend it on X, Y, and Z, like more frivolous things. And I'm like, damn, that sucks, dude. Or even just saving. They're like, my partner would rather save it. So one person is in the mentality of saving, and then the other one is like, hey, let's grow this money that we're saving, and they're just not aligned, and it's counterproductive.
It is. It definitely holds you back. Because I know that when we got like really serious talking about this was when Levi was born, and you started talking to me how passionate you're very passionate in explaining what your ideal was behind generational wealth and leaving a legacy. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. Like, I didn't think about this. All the things you think about when you have a kid. And that was just, I mean, as far as like, I thought I was going to be doing good by just being like, we're going to open him a savings account or a savings fund,
At least you're thinking.
Because I was like, and like I said, like I just, like we were just trying to start. Like for me, that was how I wanted to start, because that's what I knew, that's what I felt comfortable with. But it really, I had to meditate on being humble and being like, it's okay that what I bring to the table is maybe not going to get us as far as what you bring to the table. And now I need to listen and evolve and grow and be patient as we're growing, and let Abe ride this one out with his
Thanks.
Yeah. And then just blame him later if it totally goes to shit.
Hey.
I'm just kidding. But no, like from a female standpoint, that's how I see it. So when you tell me those stories, I'm like, I resonate with the wife when she's skeptical.
Yeah. I mean, and I do too. Like it's normal. It's normal human nature to be skeptical about a lot of things, right? But I mean, if you have kids, you definitely have to look at trying. I would say this is just my opinion, right? This whole thing is just my opinion, but I feel like you have to look at setting up your kids, right? I hear the dialogue always of people being like, I don't want to do that for my kids because they're gonna become spoiled brats, or they're gonna become a brat, or they're gonna act entitled. But I'm like, why are you making the decision ahead of time? You don't know if your kid's gonna be a spoiled brat or entitled or any of those things, right? Like, why not do it, right? And if you decide that this kid is ungrateful or isn't ready for it, either you wait until that person is ready to give them that thing, or that portfolio when you feel like they're responsible, or they never reach that thing, and guess what, you got yourself a nice little present to go buy that nice Corvette and that nice speedboat and that nice Louis Vuitton bag, or multiple Louis Vuitton bags, right, with that money. So I'm always like, man, why sell why make that decision now? Like, why not prepare? And then if you feel like things have changed, at least you have the ability to make, you're fortunate, or you're privileged enough to make that decision at that time. We're not, I try to look at it like this, like, we're mammals, we're not reptiles, right? We're meant to nurture and cater for our young, unlike reptiles. So if we do that, or we're doing that with your kid, you nurture your kids, why not nurture them financially?
Ooh. And I'm going to piggyback off that, because I feel like it comes from a narrow-minded mindset, like where you hear the dad that's like, or even the mom. I mean, it's almost like it's borderline like toxicity when you think about it. And nobody did that for me, so why would I do that for them? And I'm not gonna, I hate to say it, but it's so true. Like, I think that I carried that in the very beginning, with Levi and our family, like, gotta make it difficult so that way they learn. Am I saying it right, or do I sound
No, yeah, it makes sense. No, and I totally align with that, just because, like, how I was taught was, my dad from a young age was just like, all right, I'm your building block. Like, I'm the base, right? You're going to build off of me, and your son is going to build off of you. And we're only going to get better for generations to come, right? Like, we're only going up. We're The only disadvantage that we really have in this company, or in this country, is time, right? Like we just haven't amassed that time to grow in this country. So, I mean, my dad's telling me this from like a young age, like I'm your building block and you're your son's building block. So it really like reframed my mind to think like, hey, this is bigger than yourself, right? Like the things that you do are going to affect your generations to come, whether it be financially or mentally. And I was just like, damn, that's intense. So
that's powerful, really powerful, because until you explained to me that's how you saw it, like you just said, you're like, it really shifted my mindset. Like it made me evolve as a parent, as a person, because I was like, okay, it's not about what I'm doing today. It's about what's gonna benefit him tomorrow, which I don't think a lot of people think about that, because most people are living paycheck to paycheck because that's the reality.
Yeah, and even just not even financially, is just generational wealth can be accumulated with lessons learned that you give to your generation, right? Or to your, the future to come, your future bloodline. Like, if you don't think of having kids, and whatever. I mean, I guess that message isn't for you, but eventually, even your niece or nephew or people within your lineage, like you could be a mentor to somebody, and should really think about that. But with that being said, I'm gonna cut it short because we went kind of like on a big tangent. But really, really take the time this week. I'm gonna challenge you guys, right, to think about your financial goals and the things that you do or how you're going to affect the generations to come, right? Like, what are you going to leave? Even if it's, an idea or a mindset or a portfolio financially, right? What are you going to leave for the next generation to come, your generation? All right, with that being said, we're out.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. Stay